Good evening, everyone. This is Dave Pokorny. This is our podcast. Story Behind the Story is the name of the podcast, where we listen to a couple of stories and talk to the tellers and find out what they left out and things like that. I'm here with Phil, who is our producer. Thank you, Phil.
No, you're very welcome.
Yay.
It's my pleasure.
Well, we're here at Brooks Notes, and we love the facility. It's fantastic. And we have a few audience members, which is great. Damn the Warriors, but that'll happen. Yay. Yay. And we're here with Jessica Morell as our first storyteller of the day. And we have a story that we can play of hers. Correct, Phil?
We do.
Let's do it. Let's play it.
In 1977, when I was 9 years old, my harebrained, drug-addled 20-something parents decided that we should move to Alaska to live off the land. At the time, we were living in Astoria, Oregon, in a small apartment above a bakery. For weeks after my parents decided that we were going to live off the land, they walked around in a cut of days saying, "Live off the land, live off the land." My parents were surviving by growing indoor pot plants in this apartment, which is why it smelled like skunk and I could never have any friends over. Given that Astoria, Oregon is tied for Lake Charles, Louisiana, and Port Arthur, Texas for the most humid city in the contiguous United States, it makes sense that they couldn't survive by growing pot in Astoria, Oregon. So my stepdad cobbled together a camper on the back of the Ford pickup truck that was our family car. And my dad and my mom and my 5-year-old brother and my 2-year-old sister all got to sit up front in the cab, but I was relegated to the pickup truck. And this pickup truck had a camper of plywood doors where they would randomly swing open, revealing my startled face to anyone driving behind us. And I used to pray that it would fall out of the pickup truck and that a nice family would pick me up that would keep me. We drove from Astoria, Oregon to Bellingham, Washington, where we caught the ferry up the Inside Passage between Vancouver Island and mainland Canada. It's a 3-day trip, and we couldn't afford a sleeping berth, and we weren't allowed back to our truck, so we had to stay on the deck. And we were surviving on dry peanut butter sandwiches, which had the rank taste of marijuana, because my mother had taken a large baggie of pot and stuffed it inside of the industrial jar of pot for safekeeping. So at one point, taking pity on us, she said that we could go to the cafeteria and share a cup of hot chocolate. So the 3 rasta-headed kids and my stepdad looking like Rasputin, we all went into the cafeteria, and my mom got the Holy Grail of hot chocolate and brought it to us, and we all squabbled and slurped. And then we saw a man coming towards us and heading towards the sandwich vending machine. And we all watched as he went over, and he took his time, and he picked 63A, which was egg salad sandwich, and it dropped. He took it. He put it on the red plastic tray. He came near us, and he set it down near us. And my mother took about 30 seconds to say, and then he walked away, and she said, "He left it." And she went and got it, and opened it, and tore it into pieces, and shared it between us. And we were all, and then she said, "He's coming back." She took it back and shoved it back into the little triangle and put it back on the tray and put the tray back. And then we all watched as he came back and looked at his sandwich, and a strange, contorted look of astonishment crossed his face. And then as a flock, we all rose and exited the cafeteria. And the next day, the man approached me on the deck, and he gave me a large Cadbury chocolate bar and a $20 bill. And the Cadbury chocolate bar I took and presented to my family as though I had hunted it and skinned it. But the $20 bill I kept in my shoe for a really long time as a hedge against future dry peanut butter sandwiches. Thank you.
Very nicely done. Well, welcome, Jessica. Yeah, that's on.
Okay. Hi.
Hi. Great story, by the way. Did you guys end up living off the land?
No.
No.
We lived in a campground outside of Ketchikan for about 6 months.
And then where after that?
Well, then we kind of made our way back to Washington, but there's a lot of story about that 6 months
Well, let's hear some of it. Yeah.
Well, I would say the story that matters the most to me, so it rains a lot in Ketchikan. So we were living in a campground and it rained all the time and it was extremely muddy, and we were living in like an old style army tarp tent.
Yeah.
And at one point, at 9 years old, I became so disgusted with my family that I moved out, and I moved to like 4 campsites away. And I set a tarp over a picnic table, and I slept underneath the picnic table with a knife,
Wow.
a pocket knife in my hand to ward off bears.
Wow. Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow,
So that's the bigger story.
That's crazy.
And then
Yeah.
it was definitely a sort of Lord of the Flies, other families who were also living in the campground, and none of us were going to school, and we were just sort of roaming around and indoctrinating ourselves into all kinds of various activities.
And did your parents grow pot for money there, or how did it?
No, my stepdad did get a job in a cannery for a while. It was all really sketchy, and
Yeah, it sounds like it could have been a little sketchy.
yeah, it was definitely sketchy.
So, how long were you up there? About 6 months?
Yeah, we were about 6 months up there.
Wow.
Yeah.
And then the whole group came back?
Yeah,
or?
we all kind of made our way back into Washington State, and I remember, I think when we first arrived, we landed on my stepdad's parents' doorstep, and they were.
Surprise.
I remember Grandma Wanda. She saw us and she said, "George, check the silver."
Check the silver. So, do you feel guilty now every time you have an egg salad sandwich?
No,
No?
no. I feel satisfied.
Good. All right. And the great visual of, well, 2 parts actually. The back end of the truck opening up and then you seeing outside of it. I just thought it would have been funny if you would have, tied something around your mouth and, looked like you were kidnapped, and every time it opened up. Did you know when it was going to open up?
No, it would just randomly open up,
okay.
and I would be back there, and I did literally pray that I would fall out and that someone would find me and take me home.
Well, that's the great visual that I have there, that, just something random falling out of a truck and somebody picking it up. A human being would not be as random as a... So is humidity not good for growing pot? Obviously, I've not grown pot, but
No,
it's not.
no. I think it gets moldy. If I remember back to my 9-year-old.
Roots. Yeah. Wow. And then how was the vending machine egg salad? Was it good?
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah,
okay.
really good.
Yeah.
The chocolate, the hot chocolate we shared was really good. I mean, it was such a intensely, I do have to take my hats off to my drug-addled 20-something parents at the time that, they probably had like $7 between them, and they decided to go to Alaska to live off the land. And so, we were literally living off of a giant bucket of peanut butter. And so
with a bag of pot inside.
yes, so that was the backup plan.
Exactly.
So things like, treats were really, really, really special.
Like the hot chocolate,
Yeah,
and then the
like-
Cadbury.
Yeah,
Oh,
that
my
was
goodness.
a huge deal. Like the big giant. Yeah, that was a really big deal, and I was extremely proud of that.
How you hunted it and skinned it. And, and took care
But
of it.
I think that was the beginning of me being a little crafty. That $20 I slipped in my shoe because I was like, things could get worse.
Well, what did you do with that $20?
I just kept it for a really, really long time. I don't remember how I ever spent it, but I know that
It's still in your shoe.
I
is what you're saying.
might still be.
It's still in that shoe.
Yeah.
All right. So that was in there. So the story, obviously, it was only like 4.5 minutes long. You had to leave some stuff out of it. What did you edit out of that story? Or first of all, how do you prepare to do a story? Do you write it all out? Do you walk around and rehearse? How do you?
Yeah, I think that I'm a better writer than I am a storyteller. I'm really shy and I get really anxious when I tell stories, and so I write them, and then I have a little tape recorder app on my phone, and so then I read it, and then when I'm driving around doing all the thousands of things that I do in a day, I listen to it over and over again. And then I hope that when it comes time to tell the story, I have at least some of it memorized, or at least the core points, and that my shyness and desire to flee the stage don't overtake me before I get my best points out.
Yeah, good points. So the 3-day trip up to, where in Alaska were you headed?
Ketchikan.
Yeah, Ketchikan.
Yeah.
Okay. So the 3-day trip, this happened on one day. And then the second day you got the Cadbury. And what happened the other time you were on that? Where did you guys sleep?
We just literally were sleeping on the deck because you weren't allowed, you drive on, it's a really big ferry. This would have been, I don't know if it's the same now. In the 1970s, you drive on and then they make you exit your vehicle. And then if you're not the hippie family with 3 kids, you get a berth. But we weren't that family. So you just like sleep upright in the chairs or lay on the ground or run around wildly or do any of those
Run around
things.
wildly is not going to get anybody sleep. But so what else happened on that trip? There had to be more activity that happened.
I don't remember really activities. What I remember is the beauty. I remember, you could see bear and other incredible animal because you go up the inside passage, I guess along, between mainland Canada and Vancouver Island, if I'm guessing right now. But it's extraordinarily beautiful. And so I remember the beauty of it for sure.
Yeah. And then staying with your drug-addled family.
Eating peanut butter.
Yeah.
And my 2-year-old little sister Raven and my little brother Josh.
And where are they now?
They live in Washington State.
They still live up there?
Yeah. Yeah.
And your parents still around?
Yeah.
She said apprehensively. Yeah. All right, well, we'll skip them.
Yeah. Actually, my stepdad has passed, but my mother is still actually astonishingly alive.
And where is she located?
She lives in Port Ludlow, Washington.
Oh, okay. So
Yeah.
she's up there too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
Nice. And you lived in Canada for 6 months, then came back to Washington.
No, Ketchikan, Alaska.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah. Alaska for 6 months, then came back to Washington. How did you end up in Petaluma, or close to here?
Oh, well, I mostly grew up in Port Townsend, Washington. That was sort of where we landed, kind of junior high on. And then I made I spent my early 90s in Seattle, which was an incredible time and place to be. Made my way to Vashon Island. All 3 of my kids were born Vashon Island in Washington State, just off Seattle. And then Jason, my husband, grew up in Sebastopol. So he had always yearned to come back. And through a series of events, he convinced me to come here, and I'm glad I did.
You guys met up in Washington?
We met at a dance workshop in Brighton Bush, Hot Springs.
Nice.
Yeah. I was there to dance, and he was there to meet chicks, and somehow it worked out.
It worked out for both of you. Did you get to dance?
I danced.
All right. Well, there you
He
go.
got the chick.
Yeah.
It worked out.
Yeah. So when you're crafting a story, where do you start? Some people start at the end and work their way back. Some people work out from the middle. Some people chronologically do it. How do you put together a story?
I'd put together a story very much how I write a lot of small sort of vignettes. I write quite a bit. And I always start with the feeling of something. Like, what did it feel like? And then I'll start writing, and usually it'll just pour out of me. So I will start with a memory, and then what did the memory feel like? And from the feeling, I can go just about any direction.
Oh, and then to bring it to our stage, it has to fit the theme. Do you wait until there's a theme that fits your story, or
No.
do you try and fit your story to the theme?